Most men handed a cancer diagnosis do the thing they were trained to do. Go quiet. Don't show pain. Don't burden anyone. Walk it alone.
They pretty much gave me that whole gambit: inoperable, incurable, chemo for life, maybe about a year.
You don't have to go through this alone. Find your community.
We're not just a support group, we become a big family.
Man Up to Cancer calls that the cave, and the gathering of wolves is the loudest argument anyone has built against it. Most men handed a cancer diagnosis do the thing they were trained to do. Go quiet. Don't show pain. Don't burden anyone. Walk it alone. Man Up to Cancer calls that the cave, and the gathering of wolves is the loudest argument anyone has built against it. The three men today on Kicking Cancer's Ass are proof it works. A retired Mountie from Nanaimo who has beaten cancer 3 separate times. A Buffalo man who was told his stage 4 was inoperable and incurable, who went and got a second opinion anyway. An Ottawa advocate diagnosed at 36 who now runs the Gathering of Wolves retreat. None of them would have met without a Facebook group and a founder named Trevor Maxwell, who refused to let men disappear. Welcome, guys.
Great to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Thrilled to have you. In 2026, in September, they'll gather for the 5th time, this time without their co-founder, Danny Riggs, who lived 5 years with metastatic male breast cancer, unfortunately died this past year. This episode is what they've all built together and who they're carrying into the gathering of wolves. Let's get started. Man Up to Cancer has a word for what men do when they're diagnosed. They go into the cave. Each of you had a moment when you were headed in. Can you each take me to that moment when you went into the cave or before something or someone pulled you back out?
Maybe I'll start, Joelle. So, as you mentioned, I'm a 3-time survivor living with Lynch syndrome. And so basically my body has a tougher time fighting off when my cells start to mutate. And so in my 20s, I had melanoma, in my 30s, colorectal cancer. And then I thought I was past all of that. And then in my early 50s, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. And as you said, the typical man response is to try to just sit back and do this on your own. Fortunately for me, I had already found Man Up to Cancer after my 2 previous cancer diagnoses. And I was a member of the group, but as a member of a group, just thinking that maybe potentially one day my colorectal cancer could come back, which was a high probability with Lynch syndrome. And fortunately, I had the group to lean on when I got this new diagnosis. I could have easily just sat on my recliner, having taken that news and just gone into the cave, as you said. But instead, I went out into that group to reach out to find out if there were other men that were going through what I was going through, because I was 51. And let's face it, most people think of prostate cancer being an older man's disease. Try to find another 51-year-old to talk to, especially locally where I lived. I could find 75, 80-year-old men to talk to about what was going on. But I had so many different things to think about. Newly married, my wife being younger than me, and what was a life going to look like if I would end up choosing surgery. And so I had to get out of that cave. And so when I reached out to the men in the group, several men reached out and said, "Hey, we've got you, and here's some of the things that we faced." And ultimately, it helped me make some decisions on treatment, and it also gave me a better idea what to expect during the process of being officially diagnosed, whether it was biopsies, whether it was CT scans and that type of thing. But I managed to speak to men who had lived that experience, and it was totally invaluable.
And what about you, Mike?
Yeah, so I know it's pretty common for men to face a more difficult mental aspect of a cancer diagnosis versus the physical. So finding a group like Man Up to Cancer was really exponential as far as my treatment, my recovery, and everything has went throughout my entire cancer journey, because we can really just get into those caves and get stuck there and really get ourselves in some bad situations that can really mess us up for the long term. So having this group as a tool throughout my treatment was unlike anything else. Getting to meet guys like these, I actually just spent the weekend with Jay at one of our smaller local Gathering of Wolves meetups. So we just go and we hang out, um, kick back, just do what guys normally do and relax and enjoy life together and know that we all come together with this similar background of cancer, and really it just forms a bond that really you can't replicate anywhere else.
Absolutely. You have to have lived it to know it.
Correct.
Jay, what about you? How did you wind up in the cave and what put you there?
Yeah, well, I guess my cave was, I think, a little bit unique because, well, just like Mike, I was diagnosed very young, so I was 36. Just, I would say, getting to the peak or like climb of my career. My wife and I had just bought an incredible house out in the country. We were actually discussing, adoption of a little girl, and the diagnosis came out of absolutely nowhere. And like my career is like I was in the military, I was a firefighter. I've always been in a helping, have to fix everything kind of job, and that's the way my mind works. So when I got diagnosed, I was suddenly in a position where it was something I couldn't fix by myself, and understand, like, having to process that and accept the fact that I couldn't fix this situation, and I'm going to need to lean on other people, and I'm going to need support. Um, that was the hardest part for me, right? Is changing my mindset from being the helper to being the person that suddenly needed all the help and support. So when I came across Man Up, it was like this world opened up in front of my eyes of like being a guy is a totally different meaning than what a lot of us think it means. And actually being a guy, actually being a man, is reaching out for help and being vulnerable and being able to express your emotions and say that you're scared, say you don't know, and that actually being okay. And that was the first time, that was the very first time I basically was in a situation where that was okay, right? I was in very male dominated fields. Not a lot of people talked about their problems or their issues they had going on. And suddenly it was just the normal. It's what you do. You were the odd person out if you didn't do that. So it was definitely a game changer for me.
So just to check in, of the three of you, how many Gathering of Wolves, the big event, have you been to? And then I think Michael, you mentioned local gatherings that happen throughout the year. So can you explain to everybody how many you've been to, what the big one in the Poconos is, and what the other ones are?
Oh yeah, so we've all been to four of them. It started out here just outside of Buffalo. We had two at a camp called Camp Duffield, and now we moved to Pocono Springs Camp. But I'll let Jay talk more on that since he's the official director and he's got all the details. But along with that flagship event, our big Gathering of Wolves, we do local mini gows, we call them. So we actually had 13 guys, I believe, this past weekend from all over New York, Canada. I believe maybe a Pennsylvania guy there too. But yeah, we also do all these mini gatherings outside of the big things because this is I'm 5 years out of treatment, so it's been a pretty long time, but it's a continual thing that we need to pay attention to our mental health and really stay with these connections and know that we have more to offer other people as well. So that's something that kind of keeps us roped into this outside of the cancer stuff itself. But yeah, we do the mini ones as well as the large ones that Jay can touch on as well.
And before Jay goes on there, Michael and Joelle, maybe I'll just cut in. The mini gatherings, we're on track to have 10 of those this year, and they're taking place throughout North America. Our flagship event this year, we're expecting 200 men, but a lot of those guys, they create these relationships once they get to the main event that they want to take it to where they live. And so that's my role within the group as the director of chapters and meetups, is that I have funding available now for these guys. And so what ends up happening is we help pay for if they want to get an Airbnb for the weekend, maybe it's cabins in the woods. And the funding that we provide usually covers the cost of the accommodations and food and beverages for these guys. And in addition to that, we also sometimes it's just 2, 3 guys that want to get together where they live, and we have funding and available because sometimes finances can be a barrier for some of these folks to get together. And so we have a grant process where guys can apply for, say, $100 to get together, to go for dinner, maybe go catch a baseball game or something like that. But what's happened when Mike and I were with Danny Riggs, you mentioned Danny earlier. The three of us were the original organizers of the very first gathering, and I think we had 51 or 52 guys that came to that. And it's just absolutely blossomed to where Jay is going to take you now.
Yeah, so I guess five years later, which is pretty wild to think that, we've all been together at the last four, and this last 3 years, I've been involved with planning in the last 2 years, and including this year, will be running the committee that plans the event. It's been incredible because we took, Don, Mike, and Danny took kind of just an idea that Trevor had and literally made it happen, right? They went from the ground up, made it happen. There was not anything like this that existed. They had to figure everything out. And, each year we've built on that, and to the point where, we outgrew our other facility. And now, we're expecting 200 guys in the Poconos in just, 3 short months. So that the Gathering of the Wolves, the main one is one of our flagship events that the organization has. And essentially, the main goal of that is we bring 200 guys out to a beautiful facility. We do a lot of relaxing. We do a lot of hanging out. We do everything from getting tattoos to zip lining to taking naps to archery, playing guitar, sitting around a campfire with some beers. And ultimately, it's really just to give guys a break, right? Just to be able to take a break from everything going on back home and come to an amazing event with amazing people and bond. Because a lot of these guys, the three of us are very fortunate. We get to kind of go around, do a lot of different things with the organization, see a lot of people over the course of the year. But a lot of the guys that come to this retreat, I would say a good 90% of them, I think is fair to say, this is their only opportunity the entire year to see other guys within the group, right? And meet people for the first time that they've been talking to online for who knows how long. We also offer like a variety of different workshops over the weekend, that address things like clinical trials and art therapy and mental health resources. And just, we really want the guys to leave with a toolkit and re-energized after this weekend with us.
Well, and it sounds like it's fun. It's not a depressing Downerville, and everybody who's there is somebody who's been a man who's been diagnosed with cancer, right?
Yeah, I think the really unique thing is that from year one, it's always been about fun and, kicking back and relaxing. But we do have a few elements of the weekend that, do get a little bit heavy, because the reality of being in the cancer space and doing something like this is we do lose a lot of people in the group, right? That's just the nature of any support group in the cancer space. I think one of the differences in our group is that we're not just a support group, we become a big family. So a lot of these guys that pass on, it's a hard hit, right? Like, a lot of people are affected and they're really tough. So we definitely make a point every year to, put aside some time over the retreat to remember those guys. We cry, we laugh, we tell jokes, we talk about them, to honor those guys that are not with us and, that have come before us. But ultimately, there's a little bit of that and there's a whole bunch of fun. So yeah, there's, and we always like to tell guys that all those guys that are not with us anymore, that's exactly what they would want us to be doing at this event, is showing up, being around everybody with community and having a great time.
And another thing I think is important to note, Joel, is that since day one, and Michael found us the most incredible space to have our very first event, a very rustic summer camp that he went to as a young boy himself. But it's been free. And this is paid for through sponsorships and donors in our organization. No man has ever had to pay to go to this event. And if a man can't afford to get to the event, we do have funding available for stipends to get people to and from, whether that's airfare, sometimes it's gas money, that type of thing.
That's amazing. I think that it's such a gift. And I know that's why you are all so passionate about sharing it. And what I'm curious about, you've all been there 4 times. If someone's new, maybe they're newly diagnosed, maybe they're not, but they're thinking maybe it would be good to, be around, have fun with other men who understand this experience. What would it be like for a newbie when they show up?
I can jump in quick, I guess there, and then let the other guys chime in. But I definitely, and what we've heard from first time attendees, that first half a day when you show up, it definitely could be a little bit overwhelming. Um, you'll definitely see a lot of hugs going around, a lot of high fives, a lot of I love yous getting thrown around. And for a lot of guys coming into this environment, that's not what we typically see back home, right? So there's kind of that initial like, what's going on here? However, within, I'd say most guys within a couple hours of being on site are just so welcomed. And, there's an aspect of trust that goes into this that all these guys are trusting us and Man Up to Cancer to come out to something like this, in a safe spot and to have a great time. And our community is so welcoming that like I said, within an hour or two, most guys are kind of over that whole, they're over the nerves, they're over the should I have come, why did I come? And we very often hear that there's just like an energy and there's just a feeling about camp during those 4 days that guys feel like as soon as they step onto site.
Fantastic.
Did you feel like you're home when you walk in there? It's not like Jay said, of course it can be overwhelming just getting together with a lot of people that you'd never met before and all sorts of new people. But there's always a feeling, no matter who is there, that everyone just gets along and everyone is there for that commonality. And it really just does feel like walking into a home. We remind guys that this weekend is for them. If they want to go back to the the cabin and just relax for 2 hours, they can do that. If they want to take a walk by themselves or with 3 other friends they met, they can do that. This weekend is really all for them, and we try to remind them that so they don't get overwhelmed with, I need to be here, I need to be there, I need to be doing all of this stuff. I think we're really just kind of have mealtime together. That's really kind of one of the only requirements. But other than that, guys can kind of just come back, come there, kick back, and really just do what they want and make the weekend work for themselves. That's kind of something we help to help them kind of settle their nerves a little bit.
And it's interesting you say that, Michael, because we had a Zoom meeting last week where we were talking to people who were kind of on the fence if they would come or not. And I was of the mindset of saying, well, you need to come because we have zip lining, we have hot air balloons, we have lake events, we have a heated outdoor pool. And one of the guys cut in and said, hey, can I just share that when I went last year, I was excited just to go to do nothing. And, his life was so chaotic that for him, it was being at an event. Well, we have camp chairs that our organization has for the guys. And so you would see 2 or 3 guys just grab a couple camp chairs and go underneath a tree for some shade and just sit there for those small visits. But there were some guys, as Jay mentioned and Michael mentioned, that they just wanted to stay in their room and have an afternoon nap that they couldn't do when they lived where they lived, right? Some of these guys have young families. Some of these guys are still working full time. And then the other thing that I think that it is super important. We've learned an awful lot, Michael, haven't we? And Jay, since the first one,
Oh yeah.
that last year we started for the very first time, kind of like a big buddy program, where the senior wolf took a wolf pup under their wing, and they met prior to the event virtually. And so when that person got to the event, they already knew somebody. And I think to the gentleman that who was my wolf pup, he actually said afterwards, like he was so nervous. And I'll tell you, so he was a gay man and he had never been to anything like this before, going off into the wilderness with 170 other men. He said, the fact that I knew that you were going to be there waiting for me changed it for me. So we're learning as we go, but I think we're really making it an event where if somebody is kind of on the fence whether they should come or not, we're just trying to make it so that it's a lot simpler and take those worries away from them ahead of time.
That's brilliant. Brilliant. So let's dive in a little bit into each of your stories so people can get to know you. And actually, I'm going to call an audible and start with Jay, because Jay, you started telling us your story. But one of the things I noticed looking at the three of you is that you're all in the cohort of younger men who were diagnosed with cancer. I know Gathering with Wolves is open to all, and you have all ages there. But, you know, and I'm in a intergenerational cancer family as well, with a genetic element like you, Don. But Jay, for you said it was out of left field. Can you tell us a little bit about your story?
Yeah, I guess Cole's notes are, yeah, I was 36 years old, very healthy, always kind of took care of myself, ate, exercise. I was always in kind of demanding, like physically demanding jobs, so I had to be in shape. No prevalent cancer history in our family, no genetic mutations, predispositions, anything like that. And when I was just about a couple months before my diagnosis, I noticed just like a little bit of blood in my stool and, just very minor abdominal pain. But, it could have easily been chalked up to like stress or hemorrhoids or whatever. All the stuff you hear people getting dismissed with, right? At the doctors. So after the blood in the stool didn't go away, I obviously knew something was up. So I didn't know what was up at that time. To be honest, cancer wasn't even on my radar. But I did make an appointment with my GP, and we have a great history. She's wonderful. So she definitely knew, we wanted to follow up and get a colonoscopy done, just to kind of, regardless what it was, they had to figure out what it was because the symptoms were not normal, right? I had the pleasure of this happening right in the middle of a pandemic. So everything was, I had to essentially go through all of this alone, in person anyways. My wife got called and zoomed into appointments and, couldn't really come with me. And over like a year and a half of cancer treatments and surgeries, she was literally only with me in person, for my last chemo appointment, which was right at the end of everything. So she struggled quite a bit with that as well, wanting to help and support, and felt kind of, out of the picture, I guess you could say, not really understanding where I was going and what I was doing. I say I was pretty lucky. Like, treatment went decent for me. I had surgery. I went through 6 months of chemo, which is never fun, but I was fortunate that, I did a lot of things to try to help myself and got fared out fairly well through it all. I did have a short period of no evidence of disease after that. And then on surveillance, they found a couple small nodules on my right lung. So I had to get some SBRT done on that, which, anyone listening, it's like high dose, just very precise radiation. And that kind of did the trick. So I've been clear now for about 2.5 years. I have scans in, I guess, 3 weeks, which are going to bump me to yearly checkups, hopefully, fingers crossed. And yeah, just living life in the middle of everything. We adopted a little girl. I continued working, doing a bunch of advocacy with Man Up to Cancer and some organizations in Canada. And yeah, just busy with life, really. So I guess that's Cole's notes.
That's fantastic. And congratulations on, being where you are. And I hope you're having a lot of joy with your family.
Yes, it is. I could say it is kind of she moved in with us 2 weeks after my last chemo treatment. So it was like the best possible thing that could happen after, the worst year of our lives. So the timing was perfect.
That's great. Now, I want to switch to Mike, because this is also colorectal, but you were told you had stage 4 and it was inoperable and incurable. And it sounds like you didn't say, oh, well, you went a different direction. And can you tell us a little bit about your story?
Yeah, so also like Jay, it was the height of COVID, so it was a very odd time to be going through treatment and be learning how to navigate a cancer facility. But I was 31 when I was diagnosed. I didn't really have it like Jay's, was out of left field. I did have some blood in my stool, probably for on and off for a couple of years, that I should have paid more attention to. Obviously, looking back now, I wish I had paid attention to that sooner. So I'm always a pretty strict advocate for if you see something, check it out now. But my local facility here in Buffalo, they pretty much gave me that whole gambit: inoperable, incurable, chemo for life, all the things that you don't want to hear. We did happen to ask if there was some sort of time frame, and the doctor we had at that time said maybe about a year. And like I said, I was 31, pretty much at the height of my career, good marriage, life was great, and then to get hit with that was pretty substantial. But as you stated, pretty much immediately when they told me that, I was thinking to myself, like, well, we got to look somewhere else, because that's certainly not the answer that I want. So we took to the internet, of course, right away, looked for other facilities that had more experience with colorectal cancer and had more treatment options available. And we ended up switching to a facility in New York City that did chemo, or I'm sorry, did surgery immediately to remove my primary tumor in my colon and implant a pump that would give me liver-directed chemotherapy, because my liver was so heavily covered in tumors. So I guess my cliff notes would also be I had 3 major abdominal surgeries, one being the colon resection and 2 separate liver resections, and right about 21 rounds of systemic chemotherapy and 6 rounds of the chemotherapy that went through that liver pump. And my last day of treatment would have been May 26th of 2021. So I just had my 5-year mark, which is kind of rule of thumb for remission for stage 4 colon cancer. Of course, it's something that still lives with us in our minds forever. But is that you, Don?
No, I think that
No.
was Joel.
That was me, but
Oh,
I think
you
we should
guys-
cheer. You get to 5 years, you get a cheer.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, it's a cheer. Gotcha. Perfect. No, it was that was certainly an emotional time, but it all stemmed back to being my own best advocate, of course, along with my wife. She was miraculous as well. But had we just sat there and listened to it, who knows where I would be today. It certainly wouldn't be in this position had we just, sat there and listened to that. So I'm always a big proponent for second opinions as well, or third or fourth. If you're still not hearing what you like, you just have to keep looking and keep researching, keep finding, and keep networking. Because that's a big thing with Man Up to Cancer too, is we talk to each other about where to go and which doctors to see and what lines of treatment to pursue. It's a lot of that, along with the mental aspect as well.
So if I'm doing the math right, you went to Man Up to Cancer the first time right after you finished? You went to the Gathering
Correct.
of Wolves?
Oh yeah. So I joined the group shortly after it was created, which was December 31st of 2019. So we were growing through COVID. So I was part of the group the whole time, and then was lucky enough to be paired with Don and the late Danny Riggs to plan the first one, and of course attend that as well.
Amazing. Amazing. Okay, so Don, you are a crazy type of cancer veteran.
Yeah,
I
love the title. Yes, thank you.
yes, you're welcome. But when did you know about Lynch syndrome? Can you tell people what Lynch syndrome is, and share your story?
Yeah, so Lynch syndrome, it's a hereditary condition where, in a nutshell, when my cells start to mutate or possibly becoming cancerous, my system doesn't have the ability to fight it off like others do. So, in essence, with my mutation, which is called MSH2, I have a higher predisposition for developing colorectal cancer, which is considered around 80%. And what I didn't know when I first found out about Lynch syndrome, I also have a very much higher risk of prostate cancer. There are many other cancers that we're at higher risk for, but in short, my family, there's been colorectal cancer in my family going back to my great grandfather. And now that we look back on it, my mother was diagnosed with colorectal cancer when she was 42. My mom's mother, my grandmother, died from colon cancer when she was 51. My grandmother's father died in his late 40s from colon cancer. So when I was in my mid 30s, and this is what something that coincidentally that Jay, Michael, and I all share, we were all diagnosed with colorectal cancer in our 30s. But I fortunately, and I talked about my mother. My mother was kind of a pioneer at the time in the early 90s when she was diagnosed, where she did share about what was going on with her. We all hear stories about cancers below the belt being something that people don't generally talk about. But my mom immediately shared with her family, like including her siblings, about what she was going through. And ultimately, she saved her brother's life and her sister's life, who were younger than her and had colon cancer the exact same time she did. So 3 of 4 siblings all had colon cancer, and the only one that didn't was the one who didn't have Lynch syndrome. Um, so the reason I mention that is that when I was in my mid 30s, I knew I should start getting tested for colon cancer. We didn't know at the time about Lynch syndrome, but lo and behold, at 36, my first colonoscopy, they found something. But I was diagnosed at stage 1. So when I was in at 37 is when they ended up deciding to do the resection. And ever since then, I've had annual colonoscopies, which have kept the cancer at bay. I almost every year they take a polyp that's precancerous. So really, I'm doing what's kind of I would say, the industry standard of the annual colonoscopies, keeping a close eye on it, especially with the Lynch syndrome. And then we did mention that I had melanoma in my 20s, which I think was an anomaly. Fortunately, my wife mentioned you should get that looked at, which I did do, and thankfully I did, because that could have easily been I could have become stage 4 in a hurry from what my doctor had told me. But fast forward to age 51, as a police officer, I was getting ready to retire, but I had broken my ankle and making an arrest. And I thought I should go in and have one last medical before I leave. And fortunately for me, because of my age, my doctor checked the PSA box. I had 0 symptoms, and I also had 0 symptoms of when I had colorectal cancer back in the day. But when he checked the box, lo and behold, my PSA was about quadruple what it should have been. And it led to, within a few months, a stage 3B prostate cancer diagnosis. So again, as Michael and Jay mentioned, we're kind of like the COVID kids, where we went through all this, where we were getting our surgeries and appointments where we couldn't go with our spouses, going to the hospital alone, no visitors. And so managing all of that for me is what led me ultimately to Man Up to Cancer. And thankfully, I was there because I was able to talk, as I mentioned earlier, to guys who were able to to give me some ideas of what to expect. But it also was extremely important 2 years later when my prostate cancer came back. So in 2023, 2024, I was dealing with a prostate cancer recurrence, which ultimately led to 20 sessions of radiation. And I also was on hormone therapy, ADT, for 6 months. And I'm happy to report that I'm almost 2 years out from radiation, and I'm still considered NED. So, I think what the three of us have done is we've listened to our bodies. We've listened to, we've pushed the envelope with our medical teams, making sure that we don't, we ask questions. We also, if there's something we're not happy with, we're willing to reach out to other people. And I think that's a big reason why the three of us are still standing here at this time and able to be the leaders within the organization to and be a part of the Gathering of Wolves.
It's incredible. And I agree. You have to be an advocate. You have to be willing to ask questions. And what you've done with Man Up to Cancer is really created this space for men to be able to be vulnerable and not have the answer and ask somebody who's walked the path. I think that women, we're pretty good at doing that. It happens, kind of naturally. And men with, 2 of you at least are in quite traditionally macho fields, you're heroes, and saying, I don't know the answer. I don't know what to do. I need help. That's a scary thing for anybody. I applaud everything you're doing. So if you could speak to someone watching this and say, I want you to come to the Gathering of Wolves, and here's why, and here's how you apply to be part of this, what would you say?
Yeah, I guess I'll start us off here. Um, so first of all, Gathering of the Wolves is open to any man in our community. So we, one of the amazing things about Man Up to Cancer is, so we're pan-cancer organization. We have caregivers, we have patients, we have survivors, we have long-term survivors, everything in between, all cancers, all stages. So everyone's welcome. And first step would be to going to www.manuptocancer.org, and you want to become a member of our community. And once you're a member of Man Up to Cancer, you'll have access to the backpack program, which we send backpacks out to guys that are going through treatments with a bunch of comfort items put together by guys that have gone through treatment before. They'll have access to all the local chapters. So that's what Don does with our organization. So there's, I think, almost 50 now done, chapters around North America and Europe. And those are the guys that are going out to like ball games and hockey games and coffee and all that. And then, of course, they'll have options to sign up for Gathering of the Wolves. So easy done. As soon as you join the community, you'll have access to all of that. And I would say to a first timer or somebody, contemplating coming, it's definitely okay to be nervous. I think I was nervous my first one. I think we all probably were. However, I'm a big believer, especially, where after being diagnosed and going through these last 6 years of cancer, is just no regrets, right? I never want to look back and be like, oh, I wish I did that, or I wish I'd gone, I wish I tried this, I wish I tried that. This is one of those things that you absolutely want to try, right? It's going to be life-changing. It has the potential to be transformative, and whatever you need at that particular time, whether it's rest, connection, or, a bit of craziness in your life, we have it all. And whatever you're there for is perfectly fine. So this is not that thing that you're going to want to miss out on.
Thank you. Okay, Mike, Don, what would you say?
I would say that you'd be walking into a family that you didn't know that you needed. A lot of these guys are lifelong friends. Like it's a connection that can't be broken, and that has come from, unfortunately, a terrible event as cancer. But it puts a lot of things into perspective, and it really. That's what it all is about to me, is family. And that's what I would tell first timers, that you'll show up there and you might be apprehensive and you might be nervous, but you will leave with a new family that you didn't know you needed, that will always be there for you.
And on top of all of that, what Michael and Jay have said, on our page, when people do apply or look to apply, we have videos from previous years that we've actually had a couple of professional videos done up showing the experience. And I think if you click on you have a 5-minute video, an 8-minute video, you take a look at that and you just see these guys that have come out of their shells. And as I was mentioning earlier, an opportunity for men and it's a 3-day event where we cover all accommodations and meals, and where these guys get a chance to come out of their shells, but they also get a chance to escape their everyday lives and be at a place where it doesn't matter what the conversations are that you're having, we all get it. So, that's one of the things we all face at home, is that sometimes you don't know if you should be sharing something with somebody who might not understand this, whether it's friends or some family, but there you can have any conversation you want that's accepted. So my advice would be just check some of the previous years and see what we were doing. And I think you'd be hooked in a second.
So we'll put links to Man Up to Cancer and to the Gathering of Wolves in the show notes, so people can just click right here and watch and get that. Now, what I want to do is I want to go to the lightning round. So the lightning round is when we do kind of 1-word, 2-word, short word answers to 5 quick questions. And so I'm just going to go in an order, Jay, Michael, Don. We seem to be doing that order on the call. So the first question is, what's the most ridiculous uncancer thing that's ever happened at the Gathering of Wolves?
Well, do we have to do, is this one word or can it be a story?
It can be a story.
Okay. Well, and the first Gathering of Wolves, we so a cornhole tournament is one of the highlights of the weekend, and we had a couple folks that were very encouraging of the tournament, and we ended up with I think it was one person walking around in a USA like Speedo because it was an international cornhole tournament. So we was trying to distract the Canadian international team.
Okay, that's good and ridiculous.
Jay, I think you stole mine. So, I guess the most ridiculous thing, huh?
It can be a funny thing, a memorable thing, just something lighter.
You know what, Michael, while you're thinking of it, I know mine, and this was year 2. So Michael, the camp in the Buffalo area was near Michael's house. And so he also had his four-wheeler that was out there to help transport people around. But although we were attending the event as, you know, as survivors, we were also working to make sure that it ran smoothly. And Michael came up to me just before dinner one night and said, "Hey, by the way, we have a plugged toilet in one of the cabins. Can you please manage that?" And as I was in this cabin unplugging a toilet, I was thinking to myself, "Man, I've come a long ways in the cancer world, and this is where this is where we're at." But that's just what it is. We just do what we have to do.
Almost on that similar note with issues, I do remember the shower trailer on year 2 taking a bunch of hits as far as not working.
Mhm.
And with a camp full of whatever we had, 100 guys there on year 2, not having ample amount of showers definitely added for an interesting part of the year. But thankfully, we have plenty of showers now, and we don't have to worry about shower trailers. But I remember that being a fun time.
Yeah, I'm thinking camp, lake, soap, but whatever. Um,
Yep.
okay, so the name of the organization is Man Up to Cancer, and you know the words "man up," kind of a double entendre. I love it, but do people get it that this isn't about being a strong man. This is, what do people think "man up to cancer" means?
Maybe I could start with this because I just spent the weekend with Trevor Maxwell in Chicago at ASCO. And that question is asked of us quite often. And Trevor will be the first to tell you that when he was first diagnosed as a 41-year-old man with stage 4 colon cancer, he felt that he was failing at life as a father, as a husband, as an employee, all of those things. And he was trying to get his life together. And for him, manning up was actually having the courage to reach out to others to realize that you couldn't do this by yourself. This wasn't about manning up and being strong physically or saying, I got this, on my own. This was about knowing that you can't do it on your own. And so manning up to him is the courage to realize that you need this community.
Fantastic. And I was at ASCO too. Next year we should meet there.
Agreed.
All right. Anybody, complete the sentence. The thing nobody warns a man about cancer is.
Loss of friendships.
Yep, that's a good one. The most difficult one that we probably deal with between all three of us. I know that for sure.
Are you saying friends who just they can't handle it and they drift away?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Like, that's when we talk about Man Up to Cancer becoming a family. Like Don, Mike, myself, a couple others in the group, like we're on a chat. We have been for years, and we literally talk every day, all day, right? And people like these guys are family, and that's simply, I think, because you get diagnosed, you have whether it's friends, family, or whatnot back home, you have your people that either step up or they just disappear, right? And that's unfortunately very common. And Man Up to Cancer definitely provides people with a new family, right? And people that are going to always step up and show up.
Absolutely. I used to have to tell people when I'd tell them I had cancer that I had an allergic visceral reaction to pity, so please don't.
Sure.
And I actually started giving people instructions. It's become a whole thing that I call happiness tripwires about how to support someone going through cancer. Because I think people drift because they are uncomfortable and they don't know what to do. And those of us who have made it through the vanguard can tell people, hey, this is what helps.
Yeah, I think being in that common space, just like you were with those, people with a common experience, I know for me anyways, from my experience being a bit younger, I'd be around, my group of friends at the time or at work or what have you, and people would be complaining about the stupidest stuff, and like the littlest things would ruin their day. And I just remember kind of standing back and just being like, you guys have no clue, right? And you suddenly just feel like you don't relate. You're just not on the same level anymore. And when you come to a community like this, we're all on the same level, right? So there's that commonality that takes that whole kind of awkwardness and not really knowing how to be around each other out of the equation.
Sounds fabulous.
And
Okay,
and
guys,
and I was just gonna say,
go ahead.
and if I could quickly, Joel, sorry, the three of us are also very quick to let each other know, and our mental health isn't where it needs to be, and that's also something that I probably wouldn't share with just my regular friend group. And so that's what Man Up to Cancer is about. It's about the social and emotional support that we provide. And I know that those two guys, I can tell them anything.
That's amazing. So, what is one thing you suggest every newly diagnosed man should do in the first week that he's probably not even thinking of yet?
Oh boy, I'm gonna sneak in two here if I could.
Sure, there's no rules.
Um, One, this doesn't have to be right away, but I would say sooner than later is find community. Like whether it's Man Up to Cancer, whether it's a support group at your local cancer center, friends, sports team, work, whatever it is. Um, get your team behind you and create that safe space as early on as possible. And the second one I would probably say is just take your time. Like unless you're in some type of like emergency situation, don't rush into anything. Do your homework, as Mike said, like get your second, third, fourth opinions. Talk to resources, like just make informed decisions, and don't be afraid to push back and ask why.
Mine would be to educate yourself on your specific disease and what it carries with it, whether it be certain genetic makeups or anything that, because every single cancer for every single person is different. No two cancers are alike. So you have to figure out how to fight your cancer the way that you feel comfortable with, and with better outcomes that some other people may tell you. So my biggest piece of advice would be to educate yourself on your specific cancer and treatments.
And I'll piggyback off of both of those. And that simply is that you don't have to go through this alone, and find your community, and that community, because there's a lot of them out there, will help guide you, whether it's talking about, like in Mike's case, getting second opinions, whether it's in Jay's case, these are the groups that'll help you get along the emotional side of this.
Fantastic. Okay, there's one question I ask every guest. So, what's your advice for someone looking to kick cancer's ass?
I can start. I know for me, in order to kick ass, I have to be in a good emotional state. And I would say you need to get this in check, your head in check, because once you're in a better state, you have a better physical outcomes. So don't do this alone.
I would say it comes back to community, right? I think there's power in community, and that's whether it be social, um, emotional, spiritual, whatever helps you. But also with your medical team, like create a community. The more people you can bounce things off of, the more people you can ask questions to, the more people that have eyes on you. In my eyes, the better.
I would say just about the same with community. Of course, I had a very positive and successful medical team that helped me as far as physical stuff goes with cancer. But emotional side, I wouldn't be the same person I am today without community and it being a part of something that really helps other men.
That's amazing. Thank you guys for sharing so much of yourselves, for the work you do for other men, and for really, it's a message. While Man Up to Cancer and Gathering of Wolves is for men, I think every person facing cancer needs to find community, advocate for themselves, and keep their mental health as healthy as possible, however they best do that. The other thing I noticed is you're all in really good shape. And so I'm going to bet you're also physically active. And, a number of the things you talked about it with Gathering of Wolves allows people to be physically active and access physical activity, which is so healthy. So, well, am I right? We're all in shape?
Yep.
Yeah. Excellent.
I will.
Not-
Can I just jump in for 2 seconds about that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, just because I think it's really important to note, though, because this is something we talk about in our community a lot, is that yes, like we're all in shape, we all do different things, but being in shape and being active could be different for everybody, right? So for me, that's going and doing crazy endurance events or whatnot, but then for somebody else, that's really in the thick of stuff, going for a walk around the block or walk into the kitchen or meditate, whatever. That's all equal. Like it's not a better, worse, more or less. It's whatever, wherever you're at. Meet yourself where you're at, basically.
Absolutely. Do what you can do. And it sounds like at the Gathering of Wolves, whatever you can do, whatever you want to do, even if what you want to do is absolutely nothing, will be supported, and you will be welcomed to have the Gathering of Wolves you want to have.
Yes.
So with that, I'm Joelle Kaufman. This has been Kicking Cancer's Ass with 3 phenomenal men, Michael, Don, and Jay. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. And if you liked this episode, please subscribe, and you'll see in the show notes links to everything these fabulous men have just talked about. See you next week.